Up until now, he'd considered the time he'd lit a stack of newspapers with a cigarette lighter in his dad's repair shop as the dumbest. 12 years old at the time, he had found the lighter on the side of the road and nearly burned down the shop. But driving a truck into the schoolhouse? This was definitely worse. Much, much worse. Zach gingerly pushed open the door, winced at the loud clacks of debris hitting the floor. The dust outside floated inside and filled his lungs, making him cough and increasing the ache in his head. When he stepped out of the vehicle, his foot hit something hard. A bookshelf lay face down on the floor, and books and magazines were spilled everywhere. He turned and looked back at the truck, and his stomach turned 360 degrees. Oh, man. Rick was going to kill him, and if Rick didn't, Zach's father would. He didn't even have a driver's license. He'd told Rick he could handle driving a couple of miles to the convenience store. The entire trip would take 10 minutes, tops. They had been rebuilding a four-wheeler in Rick's parents' garage, and they couldn't find anything to drink in the house, at least nothing they wanted. He'd driven the truck just fine before, with Rick sitting in the passenger seat, but this time Rick had let him go by himself. Then, halfway to the store, 2 deer ran out in front of the truck. He'd cut the steering wheel hard to the right, then tried to straighten out, but he overcorrected. The last thing he remembered was the schoolhouse coming up on him. He'd slammed down the brake pedal a bit too late. Zach shut the door, and several pieces of wood slid onto the hood. A hot breeze slammed into him, and he turned around to see a cavernous hole in the school wall with the truck parked halfway through it. A huge board dangled over the bed, then dropped, causing the vehicle to bounce on its shocks. Among all the clatter, he thought he heard a soft moan. Was someone here? He jumped over 2 damaged desks, scanned the room as he made his way to the front. Near the teacher's desk, a petite female lay on the floor, struggling to sit up. He knelt down beside her. "Are you all right?" She put her hand on the floor and pushed herself into a seated position. Her round, silver-rimmed glasses sat askew on her face, and her dark blue eyes shone from behind the lenses. Strands of dark blonde hair had pulled loose from her white head covering, hanging limp against her cheeks. His stomach lurched at the botch of blood on her forehead. A thick strip of jagged wood lay in her lap, probably the cause of her injury. The blood began to trickle beneath the bridge of her glasses and over her nose. He patted his pockets for a rag, cloth, something to stop the bleeding. Nothing. He untucked his light blue shirt from his pants, ripped part of the bottom off, then wadded it up and put it against her head. "Don't move." What? She turned her head and looked at him, her eyes unfocused. "Be still. You might have a concussion. And it would be my fault." Not only had he knocked out part of the schoolhouse, destroyed the furniture inside it, and crashed his friend's truck, but now he might have seriously injured someone. The young woman ignored his warning and straightened her glasses. Then she reached up and touched her head. Her finger slid against the blood. She jerked her hand away and stared at the red smudge on her skin. He braced himself, waiting for her to pass out or at the very least get hysterical. To his relief and surprise, she did neither. Instead, she calmly said, "I'm okay. You're bleeding. Just a little bit." She took the cloth from him and looked at the round red stain on the fabric. "See? Not that much." She started to stand, but when she got to her knees, she began to sway. He put his arm around her slim shoulders to steady her. "You need to see a doctor." "Nay, I'll be all right in a minute." She gazed at him, her brows sliding into a V shape. "Don't I know you?" He looked directly at her face. Then he recognized her. Ruth Byler. He'd gone to school with her, although she was a couple of years behind him. But who could forget Miss Perfect, straight-A teacher's pet Ruth? "I do know you. Zachariah Bender, yeah?" "Yeah, that's me." Right now, he wished he were someone else, and someplace else. He glanced at the board behind the big teacher's desk. It had been spared from the flying debris, and he saw letters on the board in print and cursive. "You're teaching here?" "Tomorrow's my first day." She moved to a standing position, keeping her gaze on the floor.